Before we start, do you consent to being interviewed on video and having this recording used for academic purposes?
Yes, I consent.
Okay, cool. My name is Emilion Taylor, and this is for my Organizations and Management course, Management 3165, and the purpose of this interview is a manager interview assignment.
Okay.
So, may I have your full name?
Ventrell Maynard.
And your current job title?
I am the coordinator for academic recovery services, overseeing the tutorial center.
Or your organization of employment?
Savannah State University.
And the number of years you've had in your current role?
In my current role, it's been by the end of this July, it'll be 3 years I've been in this role. By the end of July. No, sorry, beginning of July. July 1st will be 3 years I've been in this role.
So how do you feel about that?
It went by fast. Yeah,
So,
it went by fast.
okay. To start with our questions, may you describe briefly your role and what a typical workday looks like for you?
My role, of course, as stated earlier, overseeing the tutorial center, which we call the Learning Commons Center. My day-to-day role, it can change here and there depending on what meetings I have, but typically when I come in the morning between 8 and 9, as you know, try to send my emails daily because that's primarily how I communicate. And we have a staff of 27 people. 2 are full-time. Well, not including myself, but the other 2 are full-time. And then the rest of the staff is part-time, which schedules are around the classes.
Right.
Therefore, I have to make sure that I'm sending out an email. That's primarily how I need to communicate corporately.
Right.
And then I have my every other week meetings with everyone. I have to split those up into groups because of everyone's schedules being different. But typically, it's just making sure, whatever I have to do that day, I may have to do some work on EAB Navigate. I may have to put in certain reports. But it's really just making sure everything is running efficient and, being available. There are times I may have a meeting. I may have a meeting with my director and the other coordinators. I'll call meetings on certain days with a peer tutor leader and the peer tutor leader and the peer academic coaching leader. I'll have a meeting with on one specific day with the learning specialist, the math learning specialist, English specialist. So from day to day, overall it's just making sure everything is efficient and running, and that we're effective in what we're doing in serving the students here on campus.
That was a great answer. How did you move into this management position?
Well, I was in advisement first, and those that don't know, I've been at Savannah State. October will be 20 years. I've been in different roles and different positions. Prior to being in this position, I was an advisor for years. And then, of course, 2023, a lot happened, and the advisors, some of the advising unit was decreased, but I was able to get into this role, interview for this role, and make a smooth transition. So by the time the new fiscal year started in July the 1st of 2023, I got into this role.
What are your main responsibilities as a manager or a supervisor here?
Well, really, as a supervisor, my main role is to ensure that that we're serving our students through tutorial and academic coaching services. But overall, it's to cast vision. And our vision in the Learning Commons Center is to learn, grow, and launch. But also to reiterate our values, which is SITE, communication, integrity, teamwork, and excellence. And then ensure that we have efficient systems, because vision is what's in front of us. Values are what's inside of us, and the systems are what surrounds us. So I have to ensure that those things are reiterated in what we're doing overall, because we want to make sure that we are instilling confidence in students and helping them get from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset as it pertains to their academics and the courses that they're taking here at the university.
Moving on to practical management responsibilities, our next question will be, What tasks take up most of your time as a supervisor?
What task? It depends on what day we're talking
Okay.
about. Some days
So-
meetings,
Mm-hmm.
like Mondays, kind of their meetings, and as you know, in the middle of the week, there may be a training I'll have. I'll meet with a group of leadership leadership cohort that I've put together, and then some days I'm working in EAB, putting in those the reports
Yeah.
for EAB. For example, if we have workshop, putting those numbers in, making sure that stuff is documented. So it just depends on what day we're talking about, because it can vary. Certain days demand, it may be more meetings.
Right.
Other days it may be more, it may require me to do more in EAB Navigate. So there's certain days where it's more vision casting, it's meeting, and other days it may be more administrative responsibilities that I have.
Okay, great answer. How do you prioritize your responsibilities when everything starts to feel a bit more urgent or
Everything's urgent. One of the
Or
ways is,
deadlines,
what do I know? That's a good question, because everything may be urgent, but not everything is immediate. And so I have to find out, okay, what do I need to get done now, and what can wait later? Because I'm not going to be able to address every urgency unless I can delegate. If I can't delegate, then I definitely need to prioritize according to the order of importance. If I receive a directive from my supervisor and it's something that's very urgent, then more than likely it's going to be at the top. That's going to be at the top because it's coming from my who I report to. Especially if it's something that's urgent, it's going to take precedence. Then it's going to be my responsibility to kind of prioritize and find out, okay, I can do this now, I need to do this now, okay, this can wait. And also I need to monitor my deadlines. What are some of the immediate deadlines? What are the deadlines that I know I would probably have to categorize as non-negotiable deadlines versus deadlines I can negotiate? So I have to be able to differentiate that.
Great answer. How do you communicate expectations to your team?
Every other week. Well, no, daily.
Yes.
Daily through our emails.
Yes.
I don't have to do as many emails because now we have the target board.
Yes.
So that eliminates, I don't have to have as much in the emails as I used to. And I think that really helps because it can become overwhelming. Student employees are already receiving emails from different people. And I just think when you read an email and it's not as much in the email, it's kind of straightforward. I think that helps a lot. But I definitely communicate daily in that email within 8, except for the weekends, of course. But between 8 and 9, I send that email daily. But then every other week, I'll meet with the group. And one of those days, it's just going through anything that I'm observing that we may need to improve, just some important reminders. And then because I'm meeting with the whole group twice a month. So the other meeting, the second meeting, I actually have training. I start implementing more of a training, like maybe student-friendly service or something. The last training that I incorporated dealt with the signal versus noise. What are we giving our focus to? What's our signal here in the Learning Commons Center? So that's one of the ways that I do that. I'll also reiterate those things if I have maybe mid-semester meetings, just to kind of let people know, informal evaluations, letting people know how they're doing. Those are expectations that I'll communicate with to people personally, one-on-one.
And our last question for practical management responsibilities would be, how do you motivate employees who have different personalities or work styles?
To remind everyone of our vision,
Yes.
our values. Everyone may have different personalities, different personality styles and everything. But we all need to be meeting at one vision.
Right.
And we all need to be demonstrating those values, those core values, which are silent.
Communication, integrity.
Teamwork and excellence.
Yes, teamwork.
Yes, we must, because everyone, the key is we don't have to meet after work. objective. We must meet at our goals. We must meet at our vision. We must meet at the vision and what our mission is and what we're supposed to be doing. We need to meet there. And that needs to be bigger than our personality differences. When our personality differences become bigger than our vision, and they become bigger than our values, that's going to be problematic.
Yeah.
So we have to ensure that that's secondary when you compare it to what is primary, which is the vision, which is what we're supposed to be doing and serving our students.
Great answer. Moving on to challenges and problem solving. What is one of the biggest challenges you face as a supervisor?
One of the biggest challenges I face as a supervisor, that is a very, very good question. I don't want to just
Yeah, of course. Take your
I want
time.
to take time to really think about that because there are a few.
Yes.
I think one of the challenges that I can face as a supervisor, I think you just mentioned it, we just talked about it, is the different personalities. It's being intentional about learning the people that you lead.
Yes.
And you can't be lazy in doing that. Now, I will say this. You're overseeing a staff or supervising a staff of 100 to 150, maybe more. It's going to be a little more challenging. That's why you have people that you empower to really connect with the people through you, if that makes sense. But with our staff, just learning the people and really trying to practice emotional intelligence and relating to people, understanding that this person may not be rude, they're just kind of maybe more of an introvert, and understanding that, and but this person here is more outgoing, and this person, but it's learning how to galvanize all of these different personalities, and sometimes people can have bad days. The key is, now if you're having a bad day every day, then we need to have a different, we have to have a conversation. But if somebody has a bad day here or there, don't give that more attention than you should unless their bad day is affecting the morale and the functionality of what we're doing that day.
Great answer. Can you describe a difficult situation with an employee and how you handle it?
Which one would you choose? There are a few. One sticks out to me because it really hit me because this was a student who not only did we have a supervisor-employee relationship, but it was kind of a mentor-mentee relationship. But there was a disagreement because I made some choices, and this person wasn't in agreement with some of the choices and my approach. Now, one thing about it, I'm going to make it I'm not going to ask anybody nor myself, and nor do I have these. I'm not going to do anything to do stuff that's unethical and more. No, that's not. That's not even on the table. We don't do that. That's not a part of our culture. That's not something that. But there may be something that a decision that I have made that you just don't agree with. It's not unethical. It's not immoral. You just don't agree with the decision. And I noticed this student employee's demeanor, and it was different. So I called him in my office, checked. I said, "Are you okay?" And this person asked me, "Are you okay?" And it was some disagreement. I just said I wasn't going to keep. I just cut the conversation off and said, "Look, this can be your last day working because if this is how you feel, then if it's not going to work for you, then let's just leave it. In essence, in other words, we'll just leave it at that. This could be your last day." And this person agreed, and it was, and it hit. It was difficult because of the relationship, but at the same time, I owe it to the unit to lead the best way that I feel I need to lead. And it's business, it's not personal. And I don't make apologies for that. Not saying I've never been wrong. God knows I have. And hopefully, and I try to learn from those mistakes. Failure doesn't have to be final. Failure can be a learning experience. But in that instance, I had to lead and make decisions that I felt was going to give us some course correction. And if you feel like you can't make that turn, then it's probably best to part ways respectfully.
How or what approach do you use to address conflict within your team?
you gotta meet it head on. Don't talk around it,
Yeah.
because when you talk around it and you're not directly addressing it, it actually can create a toxic culture because we're not being direct with one another. The times where there's been conflict, conflict within this unit, I always believe, if it's with a team, okay, we're gonna get in the room and we're gonna address this. And I let students talk it out. If it's a student employee to another student employee, we need to address that.
Yeah.
We're not gonna talk around it, we're not gonna talk about the person. If you have an issue, it's good to have, now I wanna make sure I'm there to be a mediator. Just in case I need to, I'm there. But it's good to let people iron it out. It may be uncomfortable, but you're gonna have uncomfortable conversations. That's part of growing up. It's part of growing. It's part of developing as a person and as a professional. These conversations, they're not always comfortable, especially when you have to be direct. But I think we do each other a disservice when we're not upfront and we don't confront one another. Confrontation doesn't have to be violent.
Right.
Confrontation means I'm bringing an issue to you, and it could be a misunderstanding. But by not bringing it to the person, we've made it worse because we're talking to everybody else except the person. So by the time we get to the person, it's already reached other people's ears, and you come to find out it was just a simple misunderstanding, but other people now have been brought into this unnecessarily from information that was not accurate, but it could have been resolved had you just come to the person and talked to them. I've seen situations where I've had to sit back and zip my lips and let students work it out. As long as it didn't, go off the rails, that's why I'm there. And then if I need to interject, I'll do that. But for the most part, you let students work that out in a professional manner, because these are the skills that you're going to need beyond the Learning Commons Center. I believe in preparing students not just for the Learning Commons Center. I want to prepare them for a world that is changing and it is moving faster, and that I want to make sure that this position I want to treat it like an internship where you're learning, not just a job, but you're learning and growing. You can take perhaps a few things that you've learned here and apply it to the world out there.
That was great answer. Seriously. Our next question will be, what do you do when an employee is not meeting your expectations or the center's expectations?
We have a conversation. I'll call them in my office. My goal is not to embarrass anybody. It's not. I do believe respect is a currency in a professional environment. So I want to be respectful, because I don't care how much younger you may be as a student employee than I am. I still want to demonstrate, give you that respect. The respect I expect to receive, I have to also model for you. But we're going to have a conversation, and it's going to be a direct, respectable conversation, saying, okay, I need to see more. Okay, these are the expectations. And to be clear, I owe it to that individual, I owe it to that person to be very clear, okay, where are you coming short? What are you doing well? But where are you falling short? And what's going on and why you may be falling short? And what can be done? What can you do? And maybe another question is, what can I do to help support you as you improve? But we got to have that conversation.
Next, moving on to our next few set of questions, leadership's do's and don'ts. Based on your experience, what are some things supervisors should always do?
Be clear in your communication. Be very clear. Be very clear. Leave no stone unturned when it comes to communication. Be clear about your expectations. Be clear about the goals.
May I ask you, as a follow-up question, how would you describe your communication style when it comes to talking to employees?
You mean in person?
Yeah, in person.
I think I'm direct. direct. I try to be mindful of my tone because I have very strong nonverbals. So I have to be very mindful of my facial expression. I have to be calm. Even if it can, even in intense moments, I have to maintain that because of my role.
Mm-hmm.
Because of my role, I have more responsibility to maintain a cool head.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. And I think that I definitely try to be more direct. Sometimes I know there have been times I may not have been as direct as I should have been, but for the most part, I try to make sure that I'm consistently direct in my communication style, in person, and of course in the emails.
Yes. What are some common mistakes or don'ts that new supervisors should avoid?
That's a good question. Very, very good question. When a new supervisor is coming into an environment, there are exceptions where you may have to be a wrecking ball. Anybody that has not seen the movie Lean on Me about Joe Clark, the principal of Eastside High, they brought him into Eastside High. Eastside High was terrible. I mean, it was awful. Awful is an understatement. And the students were not meeting the scores. The scores that the state required. And the school was it was bad. Drug dealers coming in, it was violent. He had to be a wrecking ball. That's an exception. Typically, I believe if you're a new supervisor, new manager, new leader in an environment, you do have to take some time to observe. I'm not saying you have to take forever to do it, but I do think when you first arrive, you need to observe the environment, observe how things are operating, and you got to decide what do you keep, what do you tweak, and what do you toss. What's working, you keep it. What's working but could use some improvement, you tweak it. What's not working at all, you got to toss it. And some people have an allegiance to what's not working because they're so used to seeing it. So if you toss it, you do run the risk of people being upset.
Yes.
You do run the
Employees may be comfortable in that aspect.
Exactly. And if they're comfortable with something's not working, then someone possibly either there was some oversight, they overlooked that's not working, or they just failed to address the fact that people are comfortable with something not working. That's dysfunction.
Yeah.
Because if it's not working, what are we doing? So you got to be able to talk. Now, when you come in as a new supervisor, one thing you don't do, unless you have a Joe Clark situation at Eastside High, to throw out everything and just totally just overhaul everything unnecessarily, because you're moving in and you're moving presumptuously instead of moving with, and instead of observing, you presume everything needs to change. Instead of asking questions and getting the proper intel, you're presumably making changes and massive overhauls to things in that unit, in that area. You're gonna cause a culture shock. So you got to know, what do I need to change today? What do I need to change immediately? And then what do I need to change eventually? So you got to be able to differentiate that. There's some things I change today. No. You got to change that now. Not even today. I'm gonna go another extreme. I need to change something now. What do I need to change today? What do I need to change? What can I change tomorrow?
What behaviors do you think damage trust between supervisors and employees?
With supervisors, it's inconsistency in the values. If I'm saying the values side, communication, integrity, teamwork, excellence, but you don't see it demonstrated in me, then if I'm inconsistent in demonstrating those same values, I expect you all to follow. Then there is there's hypocrisy, and there's inconsistency, because I'm expecting you to follow something I don't follow. Think about that. That's Nobody, who's going to trust my leadership? Who's going to trust my leadership if I'm not following the values that I've constantly preached to you all? If I'm not if I'm not demonstrating those values, if you don't see those values demonstrated in my behavior, because it should start with me.
Mm-hmm.
It should start with me. Anytime, and I use this sports analogy, coaches, head coaches and quarterbacks got to go to the podium whether they win or lose.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they win or lose.
Right.
I don't get to dodge the podium because we lost. I got to give an answer for that.
And you have to be composed.
And I have to be composed. But then at the same time, if we lose, if I'm at the podium, I don't need to be throwing my team under the bus either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll take the heat. I'll address it behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to address it behind closed doors. But publicly, I need to take that heat. And then if we win, I need to share the credit. But if I fail to do that, why should you trust me?
Moving on to our last and final question. How has your management style changed over time?
Couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm as nitpicky as I used to be when I first got this job because I had to make some changes.
Yes.
So you know, when you're coming into a new unit and you know that there's some things that need to be changed, that there's some changes that need to be made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're gonna. It's almost like we got to do this. But I think the longer I've been in this role, I'm some things I have. It's almost like you pick your battles,
Yes.
and I was like, everything is not a battle. That's not really a battle. That's just something that can stop. But now there are things that can be potential problems.
Mm-hmm.
Some small things can potentially be a detriment to the unit, and I have to be able to see that through the eyes, my leadership eyes. Okay. But another thing I started doing, I started delegating more, not dumping.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between dumping and delegating.
Mm-hmm.
Dumping means here, take this, and I'm basically abdicating my responsibility. That's in my role and my responsibility. No. But delegation means, wait a minute. That's why I started empowering every semester a new peer tutor leader and a peer coach leader.
Mm-hmm.
So now they can be my echoes, and they're on the ground with their peers. So now I can get the intel I need that with people that are working right beside other peer groups, because I can't be everywhere at once. I'm not going to be following people. I got to follow people to make sure people are doing their job. I've hired the wrong people, or I have the wrong system in place. But I have that because I've learned to delegate, and it's really helped a great deal. And I think especially student employees, I think some students want that opportunity.
Yes.
You want to grow in leadership and have that opportunity. Now you can put something on your resume. So that's helped me a great deal. It's kind of alleviated some things because I'm managing different things. There are different moving parts in this learning commons center. Not only do we have the peer coach leaders, peer tutors and peer coaches, we have the learning specialists, math leaders. We also have faculty that's here in the learning center. I have to manage different parts, and so when there's a problem with technology, they're going to come to me, and then I'm going to have to reach out to IT.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different moving parts.
Yes.
So delegation is a key for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's helped me a lot. I've found the value in that even more, and to be able to entrust student leaders. I don't expect them to enforce certain things. I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
I live by this. I've even shared this. I said, look, don't enforce. That's not your job.
Mm-hmm.
That's my job. So that means I'll wear the black hat and be the bad guy because I'm too old to care. People get offended because I have to consider the overall unit and what we're doing.
Right. And just like a regular follow-up question, what are some of the monthly or semesterly goals that you have to reach? What are some of the things the center has to?
Well, overall, I'll say we always have a quarterly report. We have a report, but the fiscal year's goals, 25% of freshmen need to have met. Peer coaches need to meet with at least 25% of the freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then 40% of the students, the peer tutors need to have reached through a peer tutoring activity.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, I try to live in yesterday's successes, but we were able to exceed both of those. a team. It takes a team.
It does.
hmm So that, but I do have something that I want to reach. Level up in me, I would like to reach those goals within a semester, which is possible
Right.
because we were able to actually do that last year,
Yeah.
last spring.
Mhm.
We were able to do that. It's a little more challenging to do that in the fall because the new fiscal year starts in October.
Mhm.
So that's when it starts and ends that following semester, September. In the next September.
Well, that'll be all for our interview. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
answering these questions.
Thank you for the question.
And they were great answers. I was very informed, and honestly, very intrigued by your experience